Innisfil. It is Thursday, September the 3rd, and I'm here today. I'm going to pass it right over. I'm here today with our Member of Parliament, John Brassard. John, we really appreciate you always keeping us up to date, even with Parliament prorogued. I know how busy your life is, and we really appreciate you taking the time to tell Innisfil what's going on in your level of government. So, John, what's happening?
Well, thank you, Mayor Dolan, and I again really appreciate the opportunity to come on. I know that these are valuable communication tools for people in Innisfil. The ability to hear what's going on from their elected officials, I think, is critical, especially at a time with great anxiety and great uncertainty as well as we're in right now. So, a couple things I want to focus on today. Number one, earlier this week, area MPs. Sat down with the Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture. We had representatives from also the Ontario Federation of Agriculture and the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. Sat down with our critic for agriculture, John Barlow from Alberta, and Randy Hoback, our international trade critic. And I can tell you that there's significant concern among the agricultural sector as it relates to coming out of the COVID-19 crisis. Many of the local producers are harvesting at this point, and it's been a good harvest, but costs are increasing for the ag sector, particularly in the area of the carbon tax. And what people need to understand is that, as the carbon tax is imposed on the agricultural sector, and they use natural resources to dry grain or, onions or whatever the case is, much of their product is dictated by the market. So they have to absorb a lot of those costs. They can't just simply pass it on to the consumer. So they're really concerned about the impact that the carbon tax is having on the ag sector, as well as the Canada, US, Mexico trade agreement and their level of competitiveness and the level of subsidies that are being done in the United States are not the same level of farm subsidies that are happening here in Canada. So it was a really important discussion and, quite frankly, a disturbing discussion because food security is critical to any nation, not just food security, but energy independence as well. And so to hear the concern of local producers was really an eye-opening thing. And this is the second time that we've met with them, Mayor Dolan. So we knew that the challenges that exist within the sector, but they employ farm families employ a lot of people in this country, and they create a lot of economic activity, and we have to be concerned about that, particularly in the rural parts of Innisfil, because there were several Innisfil ag producers that were on this call expressing similar concerns. The other news that I want to share with you is that the CERB has been extended from 24 to 28 weeks. It'll transition into a new benefit. We're not quite sure how that benefit will look. Whether it requires legislation, we're pretty sure it does. But as you mentioned, we are prorogued right now, so we haven't been able to see any legislation of what this new program will look like. But we know that there is a possibility that there might be some transition anxiety for people from the CERB to this new EI program because it may not necessarily kick in when the CERB ends, but that remains to be seen. So once the legislation is put before Parliament, we go back on September 23rd. Obviously, we're going to get a new throne speech, but we'll be anxious to see what this legislation looks like and how it's going to impact people. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep information available for people. And the last thing I want to talk about is the initiative to shop local and support local. I know that the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, supported by the Ontario Chamber and local chambers, are really focused on this Canada United program that they've initiated. And we want to make sure, because there are many businesses locally in Innisfil that are still struggling coming out of the COVID-19 shutdown. We need to be there to support them. And one of the initiatives, and I think you've seen this, Mayor Dolan, on my social media sites, we're really going around talking to businesses about coming out of that COVID-19 shutdown, but how they are making people feel safe coming into the establishments, because that's a big concern for people right now. So we're doing a lot of those videos. We just did another one in Innisfil. I expect that we'll put that up over the next couple of days. But any business that wants to promote the safety measures that they've implemented and to talk about, how people can support them, feel free to call my office, 705-726-5959. We really want to be there. And I know you do as well, Mayor Dolan, to support local and shop local as well. And that's it. I appreciate the time again. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But I really want people to continue to follow the advice of medical health officials. We've got a long weekend coming up. Hopefully it'll be a beautiful September long weekend that people can enjoy with their family and friends.
Absolutely, and thank you. Yes, support local. Forget about Amazon. Support local restaurants. Support local stores. Today is the Innisfil Farmers Market, so I'm headed over there a little bit later today, and also tomorrow at the Tanger Outlet Mall. They'll be there, and that this is their last Friday at the Outlet Mall, but they'll be at the Innisfil Recreation Center for several more weeks. So get out and support local, and have a lovely long weekend, everyone.